يضاعف له العذاب يوم القيامة ويخلد فيه مهانا. إلا من تاب وآمن وعمل عملا صالحا فأولئك يبدل الله سيئاتهم حسنات.
سبحان الله.
إلا من تاب وآمن وعمل عملا صالحا فأولئك يبدل الله سيئاتهم حسنات. وكان الله غفورا رحيما. ومن تاب وعمل صالحا فإنه يتوب إلى الله متابا. ومن تاب وعمل صالحا فإنه يتوب إلى الله متابا. صدق الله العظيم.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا وشفيعنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وآل بيته وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين وأولياء ومشايخنا وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا يا خير الناصرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وبعد. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has allowed us to come together at this blessed place at this blessed time with His permission. Because any time the believers come together to commemorate Allah Ta'ala or the commandments of Allah Ta'ala or the sunnah of our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, they are there by invitation from Allah Ta'ala. Otherwise not. This doesn't dismiss the fact that there are those who are and those who cannot be here but who wish to be here. They are also included. And those who have been sent here and given permission to sit with us, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, because everything is done with the permission of Allah Ta'ala. So we want to cover, inshallah ta'ala, some of the adabs of tawbah, the adab of tawbah. And Allah Ta'ala mentions there's a long hadith Qudsi, where Allah Ta'ala says in hadith Qudsi, it's a long hadith, so I'll just recite the English interpretation of it. There is no way of translating either the Quran Sharif or the hadith, the sayings of our beloved Nabi, into any language. You can only get an interpretation of what it means, because without knowing the language itself and the nuances of the language, it's not possible to translate it word for word. The danger lies in translating Arabic from Quran Majid word for word is committing kufr. Because when you translate it from Arabic into another language, it doesn't convey the actual meaning of it word for word. And in some cases, we are actually attributing things to Allah Ta'ala that are above and beyond what is worthy of Allah Ta'ala. We're not reverencing or mentioning Allah Ta'ala's reverence in a worthy and respectful manner. Likewise with our beloved Nabi Kareem, Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we give an impression of what was been said by Allah's beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and what Allah Ta'ala said through his beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, known as the Hadith al-Qudsiyyah. So Allah Ta'ala says through this Hadith al-Qudsiyyah, O Bani Adam, so long as you call upon me and ask of me, I shall forgive you for what you have done, and I shall not mind. Ya Bani Adam, were your sins to reach the clouds of the sky, and were you to then ask for forgiveness of me, I would forgive you. Subhanallah. So this is the bounty of Allah Ta'ala on the believers, that Allah Ta'ala is telling us that no matter what sin you commit, if you ask Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness, He will forgive you. There's no doubt about it. So for the believer, there is no such thing as a hopeless situation. So no matter what sin you commit, if you have Iman in what Allah Ta'ala has sent down, and full Iman in what Allah Ta'ala has sent through His beloved Nabi Kareem, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there's hope for you. And if the believer does the most heinous sin of all, without committing kufr, without committing shirk or associating or partner with Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala says, I'll forgive you. And even if the believer reneges on his deed and does tawbah and asks Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness, then Allah Ta'ala even accepts his tawbah for the one who commits shirk. But this is a major tawbah that he does, because he has to confirm his belief in Allah Ta'ala once again. But even for that person, there is the rahmah of Allah Ta'ala, this tawbah. But it comes to a sincere tawbah. And without the sincere tawbah, there is no acceptance of repentance. And amongst the adabs of tawbah is that the person has to have remorse. Without remorse, and this is the very beginning, the first adab of tawbah is to feel sorry for what one has done. We find that the adab of tawbah, it began with the tawbah of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, when he did tawbah for forgetfulness. Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam never committed a sin. He never committed a major sin, because he never actually disobeyed the command of Allah Ta'ala knowingly. To commit a sin is when we know something is against the decree of Allah Ta'ala and we do it knowingly. We know that Sayyidina Adam, he was caused to forget that he was not supposed to eat of this particular bounty. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in Quran when Shaitan caused him to forget, and he lost his state of felicity, and he was sent to the earth for a specific period of time. And even then, it was the decree of Allah Ta'ala, because Allah Ta'ala says in Quran Majid, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, that I am going to send or place a khalifa on the earth. So it was part of the qadr of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam to forget. This is the malady of all human beings. And we inherit this from our father Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. So again, some say that it was apple, some say it was wheat, Allahu A'lam. But the reality is that Allah Ta'ala had commanded Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam to not eat of this particular thing. Shaitan, he came with his intrigue and lying. If you can imagine, and here is the two blessed beings who have never heard someone tell a lie. Never heard any falsehood at all. Shaitan, he comes and says, I swear by Allah, I am your sincere advisor. They're thinking that the Shaitan is telling the truth. They've never heard, they don't know what a lie is. And he said that the only reason Allah Ta'ala told you not to eat of this tree is that you become like the Malaika or greater than, he was already greater than the Malaika. This is Allah Ta'ala's greatest creation. Mankind is the greatest creation of Allah Ta'ala. And even the Malaika, they serve Allah Ta'ala's Khalifa in this earth and other places as well. They have duties that they perform for Sayyidina Adam and Bani Adam alayhi salam. So after making this mistake of forgetting, then Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, he did tawbah for forgetting, mind you. not for committing a sin. We know that all the Anbiya and Mursaleen and Ma'asum, that they are protected by Allah Ta'ala from committing a sin. This is basic Iman. So for someone to say that Sayyidina Islam committed a sin, this itself is kufr. Because Allah Ta'ala protected them from this, but no one else is protected from this other than the Anbiya, the prophets, and the messengers of the Mursaleen, the ones who were sent with the message by Allah Ta'ala. Even the awliya and the ulama al-haq make mistakes. There's a phrase that every sinner has a past, and every wali has a past, and every sinner has a future. That every friend of Allah Ta'ala, at some point, Allah Ta'ala rectifies their situation and works them around and put them on the path of rectitude and straightforwardness and raise their station because of their attention to their ibadah, the worship of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala says in Quran Majid, وَمَا خَلَقَتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created mankind or jinn except to do my ibadah. But this is the whole purpose of our creation and living in this earth is to do Allah Ta'ala's ibadah, to reverence Him, to adore Him, to obey Him and obey His commands. This is what ibadah is. Ibadah is not just doing namaz or salat. Ibadah is everything that entails obedience to Allah Ta'ala. Making the salat 5 times a day, or fasting Ramadan, making hajj if we have the means, all the things that Allah Ta'ala has commanded, as well as the adab towards each other. Adab towards Allah Ta'ala is part of the ibadah that we look at when we think about what we do and what we cannot do. So when we breach the adab, even the believers do tawbah. They ask Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness. For example, in some cases, you may be sitting in front of your sheikh or some teacher and you breach the adab. You say, Astaghfirullah, Shaykh, please forgive me. And it may have been a minor breach. I remember sitting with our Shaykh, and we were having dars, and he gave all of us tea. And the Shaykh he didn't drink the tea yet. He was giving a dars, and I grabbed the tea, and he said, wait. This was a breach of adab. I should have waited till the Shaykh drank first, but I was so thirsty that my nafsi amara was telling me, take the drink. In the waswas of my lower desires, take the drink. The Shaykh was testing our patience because the adab is when you sit with the ulama and the awliya, you look and you observe because they are the ones who are showing us through the example of our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam how to act, how to interact, how to be civilized people. So with the adab of Tawbah, Sayyidina Adam, he taught us the first adab of Tawbah was to admit he made a mistake. He was like, Ya Allah, it's like you feel that I disappointed my Rabb. My Rabb is disappointed with me because I did what He told me not to do, even though it was out of forgetfulness. He said he did tawbah. But he was given the words of tawbah by Allah Ta'ala because Allah Ta'ala caused him to do it and gave him the words of tawbah and then sent him to do his mission on the earth. It was all part of his mission. Because Allah Ta'ala wanted us to know how to do tawbah when we made a mistake. Allah Ta'ala says in Quran Majid, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وتلقى آدم من ربه كلمات فتاب عليه إنه هو التواب الرحيم. Then Allah Ta'ala taught Adam words from his Rabb and He had relented to him. Indeed, He is a tawab ar-rahim. He is the one who accepts the tawbah and is most merciful. So here, tawbah may mean, one of the meanings of tawbah is to return or to turn around. Because when we disobey the command of Allah Ta'ala, it's like disregarding the command of Allah Ta'ala, but also disregarding the one who gave the command. And on a mundane level, we understand it better when we can relate to our own selves and our families. If our father tells us to do something and we disobey the command, it's like disregarding him, and it's the highest form of disrespect. This is the highest breach of bad adab. Because for the believers, there is the adab with Allah Ta'ala first, then there's the adab with our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then there's the adab of the mu'mineen in general. The adab of the father toward the son and the son toward the father, the adab of the parent toward the children toward the parents, the adab of the teacher toward the student and the student toward the teacher, the adab of books, the adab of shoes, adab. 99% of our adab is how we do things and how we carry on our affairs. But so Allah Ta'ala taught them the words. The ulama, they say that with this, that Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, when he did tawbah, they said that he said, Ya Allah, I ask you for the sake of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to forgive me. And it is said that in this riwayah, it may be weak, but this is the riwayah, it says that Allah Ta'ala asked him, well, how do you know about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And the reply from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, our father Adam alayhi salam, was that, Ya Allah Rahman Rahim, when you blew the soul into my body and it filled up and it came to my head and I became animate and I raised my head and I looked at your arsh and I saw written across your arsh, I saw the words La ilaha illallah Muhammadar Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And so because of this, he said, because I saw this blessed name attached to your name, I knew this must be the one that you love the most and the one you hold in the highest of regards. And so I'm seeking his intercession on my behalf. Allah Ta'ala said, yes, of course. So one of the adab of tawbah is, first of all, to admit you made a mistake. Second adab of tawbah is to seek a means to Allah Ta'ala to ask Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness, because we are sinners. When someone goes into the court of the king, if he has a request, even if he's a poor man, he brings something with him. And according to the status of the individual, he brings what he has. So when you go into the court of the worldly king, it's untoward not to bring something with you. For the rich man, he brings bags and bags of gold, even though the king doesn't need the gold. The poor man may bring a box of dates, even though the king doesn't need the box of dates. Allah Ta'ala does not need of anything from us, but the adab is that you bring something with you when you go in front of Allah Ta'ala to seek His forgiveness. So the first thing we bring is the wasila of our beloved Nabi Kareem, Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, and this is known as tawassul. Tawassul is seeking a means to Allah Ta'ala, but you're going to Allah Ta'ala through something, you're not going to that thing. The evidence of this is the well-known hadith of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Hunayf, who was there when our beloved Nabi Sallallahu gave a specific dua to a blind man. This is known as the hadith of the blind man. You find it in Imam Tirmidhi records it and others. He said that a blind man came to our beloved Nabi Kareem, Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, and said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, please make dua that Allah Ta'ala restore my sight. And our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam said, it would be better if you could deal with it. And this Yusuf says, but Ya Rasul, I can't deal with this. If you can imagine, this is a Sahaba who is coming back and forth to the masjid and sitting in the majlis of our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, but he can't see the beautiful wedge of our beloved Nabi sallallahu. He can't see the nur coming from the blessed teeth of our beloved Nabi sallallahu. He can't see the words that flow from the hands of our beloved Nabi sallallahu. He couldn't see the rocks that were in the pebbles that were in the hands of our beloved Nabi sallallahu that were doing zikr of Allah Ta'ala, subhanallah. At the same time, he's being helped back and forth to the majlis of our beloved Nabi sallallahu by different Sahaba. Can you imagine? And he feels as though it's a burden. So he's saying, Ya Nabi, please make du'as that I can see again. He said, it would be better if you could deal with it. So he said, but I can't. So he said, well, then do this. Go and make a perfect wudu as best you can. Then make 2 rakats and use these 2 rakats as a means of seeking Allah Ta'ala's help. This is called Salatul Haja. And repeat these words. He said to recite, Allahumma inni as'aluka wa atawajju ilayka بنبيك محمد النبي رحمه. Oh Allah, أسألك, I ask you, وأتوجه إليك, and I petition you, بنبي رحمة, يا محمد إني أتوجه بك إلى ربي, يا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم, I turn through you to my Rabb, إني أتوجه بك إلى ربي, through you to my Rabb, mind you, for the fulfillment of this need of mine. Allah, then he made his dua, Allah, please accept this on my behalf. So here, our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying that you have to take a means to get to Allah Ta'ala, because what do we have that's worthy of even standing in front of the king? So how do we expect that our du'as are going to be accepted? Because we're the ones committing the sin. Don't we need someone who is protective of committing sin to intercede on our behalf? We're talking about our beloved Nabi Kareem, so Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad, he is Sayyid al-Insi wal Jan, the leader of men and jinn. Sayyid al-Anbiya wal Muslim, the leader of the prophets and the messengers, who is the leader of will be Adam on Yawm al-Qiyamah. He will be the one who will begin and will intercede on behalf of all of those ummahs who came before. So why wouldn't he intercede on our behalf? This is in hadith of the wasila or of the shafa' of our beloved Nabi, Sayyidina Muhammad al-Muslim on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and this hadith where he told the Sahabi to ask Allah Ta'ala through him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He didn't say ask Allah Ta'ala directly. So for those who say that tawassul is shirk or it is impermissible, then what about this hadith? Their retort is, well, this was during the time when our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was physically walking the earth amongst us, but now that he's not physically present, then this doesn't apply anymore. But this is belied by the fact that during the Khilafat, Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, a companion came to Sayyidina Uthman ibn Hunayf and said, Ya Uthman, I have an urgent need from the Khalifa Uthman, but I don't have a connection with him. I don't have a relationship with him. Can you intercede on my behalf? He's taking a wasila of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Hunayf. Can you talk to him on my behalf? This is also tawassul. To ask someone to do something for you on your behalf, this is tawassul also. Even the people who deny tawassul, they do tawassul. They say, brother, I need a job. Can you write a recommendation for me? This is tawassul. So why is it that it's not permissible when it comes to the one who has been given the permission to intercede on our behalf, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So this is the second adab of tawbah, to do tawassul. But anyway, during his khilafat, so Sayyid Uthman ibn Hunayf, he told him to recite the same dua that the blind man was given. He recited and made the Salatul Hajjah. Then he went to see the Khalifa. One of the attendants allowed him to come in. Sayyidina Uthman, who gave him permission to sit, he asked what was his need, and he fulfilled his need. He left thinking, MashaAllah, Uthman ibn Hunayf, he interceded on my behalf. So he went back with the good news that Jazakallah khair, for interceding and talking to the Khalifa on my behalf. He said, I did talk to the Khalifa on your behalf. Did you make the dua? He said, yes. He said, well, there it is. SubhanAllah. So this is tawassul, that we're asking Allah Ta'ala for the fulfillment of this need, but we'll see the means to do it. Everyone uses means, be it medicine or anything else, but all those things, they only do that with the permission of Allah Ta'ala and the quality of being Shafi al-Muznibeen, the one who intercedes on our behalf, those of us who commit sins, and that's all of us, because we all make mistakes, commit sins. So he is the one who intercedes on behalf of all of the Ummati Muhammad, and even the Ummah who came before, who believed in the Prophet who came with them. They will need intercession on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and he will be their intercessor on Yawm al-Qiyamah as well. The people of Sayyidina Adam, the people of Sayyidina Sheesh, the people, all of the Ummahs who came before, the people who committed sins, but they left this world with Iman in their Prophet at the time, they will have the intercession of our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we have been blessed because we have the chief of all the prophets and messengers interceding on our behalf all the time, subhanAllah. He's always asking for the Ikfir Ummah, Irham Ummah, have mercy and forgive my Ummah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. This was his constant dua when he was physically walking the earth. Always making dua on behalf of his Ummah, asking for our forgiveness, asking for the mercy of Allah, asking for Allah to increase our, asking Allah to bring down the rain. Always making dua on our behalf. The Nabi, he is the tawassul for the believers. This is the tool Allah has given us to fortify our iman and to have our duas and our tawbah accepted, subhanAllah. I don't want to stay on because this is the point that we can go on forever, but let's continue. Another adab of dua is to correct the wrong that has been done. If we've wronged someone and we know that person, then we should go and we should seek their forgiveness for the wrong we've done. If we've appropriated some misappropriated property of theirs, we took their property, the property should be returned to them. And if the property is gone and we've used it, then we should return something in kind and pray and ask Allah Ta'ala to allow them to accept it from you. Because the person has that right to say, no, I won't accept it. Then what will be our condition on the day of when we stand in front of Allah Ta'ala, begging and pleading, Ya Allah, and hoping that Allah Ta'ala forgives us because part of the adab of tawbah is to right the wrong that we've done to the one who was done wrong. So we return that thing and we give it back. So this is why also the adab of tawbah is that if we miss some salah, we owe those salahs to Allah Ta'ala. The salah, we have to do qadha of all the salahs we missed. Because who is in more debt than the believer who owes Allah Ta'ala fasting, owes Allah Ta'ala salat, owes Allah Ta'ala, umrah or hajj when he had the money and he didn't do it. This is a debt that we owe to Allah Ta'ala. This is why the ulama, they say, specifically in Hanafi madhab, that if you have salat, the following salat that you have missed, it's a debt to Allah Ta'ala that you will be asked about on Yawm al-Qiyamah. That the first thing you will be asked about, and this is based on Sahih Hadith, that you will be asked about your salah, because it's a debt you owe. Allah Ta'ala asks, what about the salat you owe me? So if you owe Salatul Dhuhr, for example, and you're making 4 rakats before Salatul Dhuhr, your niyyah is for qadha of the dhuhr that you missed. Because how is it that something that is missed is accepted before something that is fard is accepted before something that is sunnah? If you owe a fard, the sunnah is not accepted. So they say that the whole time you're making those sunnah nawafils, sunnah and nawafil rakats, it should be with the intent of making of all those salahs that you missed, because you owe this to Allah as a debt. So we pay that debt to Allah Ta'ala. We also owe a debt of gratitude to our beloved Nabi al-Kareem, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, so that when we make dua, this is the adab of also making tawbah, is that we recite a specific dua, a munajat, so to speak. Munajat is the outpouring of the heart, the intimate conversation between Allah Ta'ala and the abid, the believer, the worshipper, the one who is crying and weeping and begging Allah Ta'ala to forgive him. And Sayyidina Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Jazari in the book Hisn Hasin says that the adab of dua for making tawbah is that we first begin with glorifying and praising Allah Ta'ala. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-azim. Allahu ya Rahman ya Rahim ya Malik al-Mulk ya Hayy ya Qayyum ya Dhul Akram. Allahu ya Rabbi Jibreel. Like this, going on like this, he says. Glorifying and praising Allah, and then sending salawat and salams on our beloved Nabi al-Kareem, Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammad al-Mustafa, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And then pouring the heart out. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman Rahim. Ya Allah, you know that my state, Ya Rahman. Ya Allah, I'm ashamed to be in front of you, Ya Allah, Rahman Rahim. And we're weeping and crying and we're making wudu with the tears, as Shaykh, he called it, making wudu with your tears. Meaning thereby that you're weeping and crying so much that you're wiping the water that's coming from your eye off your face, This is the outpouring of the heart. And that's done at Salatul Tahajjud. Because this is a debt that we owe to Allah Ta'ala. So the munajat is part of doing tawbah. And we know that Allah Ta'ala is not bound by His decree. But we are bound by the decree of Allah Azza wa Jalla, so much so that we know that if the believer has made a mistake, his sincere dua, Allah Ta'ala can change it. Allah Ta'ala may have decreed that he is going to Jahannam for a specific period of time, or I'm going to cause him hardship in his livelihood because of this mistake he made. Because he's done this ghunna kabir, this major sin, I'm going to restrict his livelihood and make it hard for him to earn a living. But this is not bound by Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala's decree can be changed, and Nabi said that the only thing that can change the qadr of Allah is sincere dua. That when you are sincere, Allah Ta'ala looks at the sincerity of the believer, that he's sincerely sorry for what he did. Oh, of course, I forgive you. But the secret is that you have to, and Sayyidina Ali, he said that the dua that does not begin and end with salawat on our beloved Nabi does not even rise up. It doesn't rise up. So the adab of dua even is that you have to glorify and praise Allah Ta'ala and send salawat and salam on our beloved Nabi. So then make your dua, and then salawat after that. This is called dua sandwich. All right? So you have, this is dua sandwich. You begin with glorifies and praise. This is the first slice of bread. You have salawat and salams, and then you have your dua. Then the last slice of bread is also salawat. So if Allah Ta'ala, we know that anytime you make dua for our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah Ta'ala will always answer it. So when you're doing salawat, you're making dua, you're saying, oh Allah, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. You're saying, oh Allah, this is a dua. You're saying, oh Allah, send salawat and salam, blessing and peace on our beloved Nabi, our leader Muhammad, our chief, and his family, and family, and Ahl Bayt, and you go on and on. This is a dua. Allah will always answer that dua. So then, if you make your dua in the middle, and then again make dua for Nabi, Allahumma salli, you think your dua won't be accepted? So this is the adab of making dua when we're doing tawbah. There's also adab of at any time that we're making dua for tawbah, subhanAllah. So this again is one of the adabs of dua. Al-Imam al-Qushayri, he is very famous for the book Risalat al-Qushayriya. He says that Allah Ta'ala says, turn all together towards Allah in tawbah, O believers, that you may attain bliss. This is reported on the authority of Sayyidina Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that An-Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the one who repents from sin is like the one without sin. And if Allah Ta'ala loves a servant, sin does not adhere to him. Let's repeat that. He said that the one who repents from a sin is like one without any sin. And he also said, if Allah Ta'ala loves a servant, that sin does not adhere, doesn't stick to him. He's able to get it off of him. He then recited, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. Allah, indeed, Allah loves those who do tawbah and those who purify themselves. Inna Allah yuhibbu tawabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. And this is actually one of the du'as you say when you, after making wudu. You can use this as one of the du'as. But so here, this is evidence and proof that when we make tawbah, Allah Ta'ala accepts it and the sins are wiped clean. So adab, or one of the adabs of tawbah is that when we make tawbah, we never think about the thing we did ever again. Never think about it. Because this is against the adab of tawbah to think back about what you did when Allah has already forgiven you. Why are you thinking about it now? This is like, it's almost as though you're having doubt that Allah Ta'ala forgave you. There's no doubt if Allah Ta'ala says that He forgives you again and again, over and over again, you have to have 40 man that the tawbah has been accepted. To doubt for 1 minute is the sign of weak iman. So that when we do tawbah, we never think about the thing we did again, because Allah has washed it away. And even the people who know you did it, they can never say anything about it to you ever again. When a person does tawbah, and in some Muslim countries, there is ta'zir, or there's punishment in public. When that person receives that punishment, Allah forgives that person, no one has the right to ever say anything about that person again, about what they did. Because Allah Ta'ala has wiped it clean as though He has never done it again. That with tawbah, that you never even think about this thing you did again. Because a lot of times when you think about this thing you did, you find yourself falling back into it because it becomes attractive to you again. So you never think about the wrong you did. You keep moving on and you keep doing the istighfar, and you make it a habit of doing the istighfar. But the sign of the believer is that when they make a mistake, they immediately begin to do istighfar. They just astaghfirullah. This is why, as children, we found that we were in circles where, the ulama may have been known as astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. They were teaching us to say astighfar. So much so that it becomes your habit. This is why the ulama of tasawwuf, they give you a specific adhkar. You do it so much that you memorize it, and when things happen, it becomes a spontaneous thing that rolls off your mouth. You find yourself in a position where you're threatened by something. You automatically, you feel threatened by something. It just comes out of your mouth because you've been saying it. Bismillah, it just comes out. You make a mistake, astaghfirullah, you just say it. Astaghfirullah, you just say it. This is spontaneous because you've been trained to do it. This is adab of tawbah, is that we remember what we did up to the point that we made tawbah, and then we forget about it. But also, other adab of tawbah is that we make a firm resolve never to do it again. A firm resolve never to do it again. Admitting that we made a mistake is based on the ayatul kareem, where Allah Ta'ala says when Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salam, he did tawbah not for making a mistake, but because he was, some say he procrastinated. So there's the dua of the adab of tawbah that we find from Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salam. Say here again, brother, See, and some people try to say they say he committed a sin. That's why no, he didn't commit a sin. He procrastinated. He waited. Allah Ta'ala told him to go to these particular people, and he took his time. So he found himself on the ship, and he found the ship going back and forth. The people said, "Wait a minute, this didn't happen until this man got here," and they threw him in the ocean. And Allah Ta'ala saved him from drowning, because this is his Nabi. Saved him from drowning by allowing the whale to swallow him. And then he was in the batoon of the whale, and he's inside the whale, and he's in sajda saying, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimeen. He admitted first that he did something wrong. Adab al-Tawbah. There's nothing worthy of worship except you. Inni, subhanaka inni, glorify to you, kuntu min I've wronged myself. So we have to admit that we've wronged ourselves first and foremost, even if we did something to someone else. Even if we did something to a believer and we breached their rights that they are owed, we said something wrong and we did something to them that was wrong, we committed a crime against another person, we've wronged ourselves first and foremost by disobeying the command of Allah, and then we wronged them. But even before you wrong a believer, you're wronging yourself because you are committing wrong to yourself. This is zulm. It begins with the individual. So we do tawbah for wronging ourselves as well. Yunus he's making his tawbah in the belly of the whale, and this is one of the best ways of making tawbah is in sajda, reciting this over and over again. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minal. And this is all from everything I mentioned is from Quran Majid. This is the adab of tawbah. Sayyidina Adam Islam, the tawbah of Sayyidina Adam Islam, the tawbah of Sayyidina Yunus Islam. None of them, they didn't commit a sin, but they were showing us what do we do when we procrastinate. So the Amir Muslimin and some of the ulama, they would do tawbah just for procrastinating, putting something off. Not because it was a sin, but just because they were not being attentive to the command of Allah Ta'ala. Some of them, if the salat came in and they delayed it for some time, and it was almost at the end, they would do tawbah just for that, even though they got it in its proper time, but because they held off on doing it in its best time, they would do tawbah for that, subhanAllah. But these are all forms of tawbah, and these are all the adabs that we do when we find ourselves in different situations, subhanAllah. Also, a adab of tawbah is that when we do tawbah, not only do we do the dua of tawassul, but we give something in return for what we're asking from Allah Ta'ala, because Nabi Sallallahu said, good deeds, they outpower the evil deeds, so that we do a good deed to correct the bad deed that we've done. We know that we have two malaika, Karam and Katibin, the honorable scribes, one who writes the good deeds and one who writes the bad deeds. So there's a record of the things that we've done. The Yawm al-Qiyamah, they will be placed in the mizan, the scale, and Allah Ta'ala will judge us, and it won't be based on that either. This is Allah's rahmah that He may disregard the scale and what's on the scale. But anyway, anytime Allah Ta'ala sends two people on a mission or two people go on a mission, there's always an Amir. The Amir of the Kiram and Katibin, the honorable scribes, is the Malaika who writes the good deeds. So it is said that when the good deed is done, it's written right away. When the bad deed is done and someone commits a sin or makes a mistake, when the Malaika begins to write, the Amir says, no, you don't have permission to write it. Did you get permission with me to write this in the book? No, then wait. And some say that up to 6 hours, the Malaika who writes down the evil deeds cannot write it in the book, so that the individual can do tawbah. If he doesn't do tawbah, it's written down as one bad deed. But when the Malaika write down the good deeds, 1 time, 7 times, 70 times, 700, infinite times. Allah Ta'ala says He gives reward, He said, without measuring it. So it's almost inconceivable for the believer to go to Jahannam unless he never does tawbah. But this only happens out of arrogance. Our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that pride to cover the size of a mustard seed will keep you out of Jannah. And Iman the size of a mustard seed will keep you out of Jahannam, subhanAllah. So that the individual who has pride, this is a shaitanic quality. Because this is exactly why Shaitan was dismissed from Allah Ta'ala's service. And this is also how you determine whether someone is a believer or not. Because you have amongst the Muslims, those who say they believe, you have the mu'mineen, you have the fasiqeen, you have the murtadeen. You have those who believe emphatically and they do everything they can do to obey the command of Allah Ta'ala. Then you have the fasiqeen who is also a believer, but he makes a mistake and he finds himself drowning in his sins over and over again, over and over again, but he believes that it's wrong. And if it's brought to his attention, he feels ashamed of it. He says, astaghfirullah, if he feels ashamed if what he's doing becomes public. The murtad is the renegade. He doesn't care what people say or think. He does wrong, it's like he's flaunting his wrong. And he justifies his wrong. So much so that he does what Shaitan wa Yadhi Billah did. So the Shaitan wa Yadhi Billah, what he did was when Allah Ta'ala asked him, why didn't you make sajda to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam when I commanded you and the Malaika to do it? And his response was, Ana khayr minhu. I'm better than him. You created me from this fire, free from smoke. You created this thing from mud and clay and clay. The thing that some things, you get mud on your brand new white shoes. You want to get this mud off your white shoes. Subhanallah, even though it's clean. But the stain that leaves. So Shaitan was he's like, I should make sajda to this. But the murtad, he always justifies why he's doing wrong. He has some excuse. He's someone who is addicted to drinking alcohol. And if you come to him and says, brother, astaghfirullah, you're drinking alcohol, don't tell me I can't drink alcohol. I'm drinking alcohol. Or he has some reason why he can do it. But brother, I'm just taking it as medicinal purposes. Yeah, he has some excuse why he's doing haram. This is the murtad who's reneged on his deen because he makes excuses, and but the fasiq, the one who is involved in this zulm on himself, when you reprimand him, he accepts it, and he weeps and cries. Even I need your help. I need Allah's help. I'm addicted to this, and no matter how hard I've tried, I can't break this habit that I'm having. But he keeps doing istighfar. He never stops hoping that Allah Ta'ala will forgive him. He never stops asking for the help of our beloved Nabis to intercede on his behalf. He's still a believer, though he commits sins. The shafa'ah of An-Nabi is for the mudhnibeen, those who have done wrong. The ones who don't do anything wrong, they don't need it. So the fasiq doesn't get this because he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. So again, going back to admitting we did something wrong, that's for all of us. Which one of us has not made a mistake? And if someone tells you, I've never committed sin in my life, that's the sin. Because he's lying. Because sin is a lie. Lying is a major sin. To say that you've never made, or to carry yourself in such a way that you act like you're better than everyone else because I'm Sheikh so-and-so. This is a major sin. It's takabbur, it's ego, it's pride, it's haughtiness, it's arrogance. Didn't Allah Ta'ala say, do not walk hardly through the earth? Heartily, so walking like you're proud and your chest is stuck out. The believers, they walk through the earth with humility because they recognize that I'm a sinner. How can I hold my head up with pride when I'm a sinner? I've done so much wrong, and I'm in need of Allah Ta'ala's rahmah and the rahmah of Rahmatul Alameen, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So how can I hold my head up like I'm better than someone else? Or those who are arrogant because something Allah Ta'ala gave them. Someone who has a handsome face and they feel that they're better than someone whose face may not be what someone considers to be handsome. Didn't Allah Ta'ala give them that quality? So how are we arrogant or proud about something that doesn't belong to Allah gave us? It belongs to Allah Ta'ala. So again, I don't want to make it go on and on and on, but these are just some of the adabs of Tawbah. This is something that can go on and on and on and on. About 2 years ago, we did a series at Mecca Institute in Lilburn. We went through the whole class on adab of Tawbah. It took us 2 weeks, and it was maybe an hour and a half, almost 2 hours each class. We went through each point for point. But if you want more information, one of the best books to read on the Kaba'ir is a book called Kitab al-Kaba'ir by Imam al-Zahabi, rahimahullah ta'ala, the book of major sins. He goes into detail. We'll talk about some of them. One of the, I think he begins close to the beginning with the disobedience to parents as being a major sin. It's a major sin to disobey your parents. Because Allah Ta'ala has commanded obedience to the parents. And the Nabi Sallallahu has also commanded obedience to the parents. So disobeying the parents is a major sin that a person has to do tawbah for. And this means going back to the parents and begging and pleading for their forgiveness. And kissing your mother's hand or kissing your father's hand when you disregard. Doesn't Allah Ta'ala say, and never say to your parents, even if they reach old age, lower the wing of mercy to them. So and we've all done it, we're all guilty of this particular sin. The parent, says, Muhammad said, go do something. Omni wants me. Omni's calling me. That's a sin, actually. They say, Well, in fact, in some countries, specifically in Libya and Sham, when they blow out a candle, they say, yeah, latif. So they don't say, while blowing the candle. They don't even want to say, when blowing the candle. So they say, yeah, latif. Even so, they say, yeah, latif, and they use the breath from instead of saying, because they sound like saying, So this is, he mentioned, this is one of the major sins. Second, we talked about lying, cheating, stealing, murder, robbery, all these things. But even from all those things, Allah Ta'ala can forgive you. I ended with a short story about this one particular person. And he was a mass murderer. The riwayah says that he killed so many people. He killed 99 people, and he was walking and he came across this Jewish scholar. So let me ask this Jewish scholar, is there hope for me? So he said, I've killed 99 people. You think there's any hope for me? He said, no, you killed 99 people? No. So he said, well, I'll kill you too then. He said, there's no hope, right? So then he came across a Muslim, and he asked him the same. He said, yes, there's always hope if you do tawbah and confess your faith in Allah Ta'ala can forgive you even if you committed murder. And this is what the hadith says, even if your sins were to reach the heights of the clouds, I will forgive you. So he said, okay, then, his intent was to tawbah. And he said, well, there's a town, you should go there and the people there will help you. So he set off in the direction of that particular town. And or some say that he, after getting this advice, he only took a step and then he died. And that the debate was, should he go to Jahannam or Jannah or Jahannam? So it was mentioned that Allah Ta'ala said, well, then measure the distance between the people of Kufr, where he's coming from, and the people of Iman, where he's going. The distance of that town where he was going was closer, and it said that Allah Ta'ala rolled up the town and made it closer to him and forgave this man. SubhanAllah. So no matter what sins you commit, never leave the Jamaat of the Muslims. And our Sheikh Sayyid Mubarak Aisha, he said that no matter what sins you commit, never leave the Jamaat of the Muslimin, never leave the Muslim Ummah, because just being around the Muslim will turn an animal into a human being. Because there are certain things you will not do when you're around your brothers. This is where the strength lies. So for someone who's doing tawbah, it's best to be around your brothers as much as possible. You're doing tawbah, and you need that strength. You need the strength of Iman that comes from being with your brother. You need the nur that comes from hearing the recitation of Quran Majid. You need the nur sitting in the majlis and doing a lot of al-hadar or whatever wadifa you do. You need that nur that comes. You really need it because you're sick. The person who commits a sin, it's a sickness. He's sick. He needs the healing. And the healing is from Quran Majid. Allah Ta'ala said in Quran Majid, He says, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. We've sent down in the Quran that which is healing and a mercy for the believers. So when someone is sick because of the sins, all the more reason why he should be in the masjid making as much salat and jamaat as possible. Listening to the recitation of the Qari who's reciting Quran. So it affects your heart. He's sitting in the circle of the masjid, even if he doesn't know the rawatib, he's listening to it. It affects the heart. So much so that it begins to change and begins to heal him. This is the healing power of Quran Sharif and Salawat and Salam on our beloved Nabi. And just the company of the believers. So also a dab of tawbah is that when you do tawbah, frequent the masjid. Because a lot of times we fall victim to sins because we're not amongst the believers. And is not the lone sheep devoured by the wolf? Even though the wolf is so much bigger than the sheep, if they're all together, he has to really try to, snatch one that's off away from them. So we ask Allah Ta'ala to accept our tawbah, to make us of those who understand the adab of tawbah,
That the first step of Tawbah is to recognize that we've disobeyed Allah Ta'ala's command, that we wronged ourselves. We ask Allah Ta'ala to allow us to be amongst those who are loved by Him and who are loved by our beloved Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I ask Allah to allow us to be conscious enough to actually to do Tawbah and to recognize that if we're not worshiping Allah Ta'ala, it's because Allah Ta'ala has not allowed us to do His ibadah. And we make Tawbah for Allah Ta'ala to ask Him to allow us to come back to doing the things that we have forsaken, be it salat or paying zakat or fasting or whatever it is Allah has commanded. We ask Allah Ta'ala to come back to that, because if we're not worshiping Allah Ta'ala, it's because He is not allowing us to do His ibadah. And again, we repent from that because, Ya Allah, what was it that I did that displeased You so much? You're not even allowing me to make salat. Ya Allah, forgive me, Ya Allah. Whatever it is that I did that displeased You so much that I can't even read Quran Majid consistently, Ya Allah, forgive me for that, Ya Allah. Whatever it is that I did that You're not allowing me to say salawat and salams on our beloved Nabi. So, Ya Allah, please forgive me and allow me to come back to that. So even if you're not doing a major sin, we're all missing on the salawat and salams on the Nabi. We all don't read as much Quran as we need to be. We all don't give the amount of sadaqah that we need to do. All these things they may not be a major sins, but they are things that disconnect us from Allah Ta'ala. So even for the believers, they make tawbah for missing to do dhikr. They make tawbah for forgetting to do salawat and salam. They do tawbah for forgetting to read Holy Quran. They ask Allah Ta'ala, Ya Allah, allow us to come back to this, especially in this blessed month of Ramadan al-Mubarak. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqihi sayyidina wa Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathiran kathiran ya khayra nasirin wa alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi min shaytanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. الحمد لله رب العالمين والرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Allah Ta'ala, forgive me for any mistakes I may have made. Ya Rabb al-Alamin.
Or a question or something.
Inshallah. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. Wa alaikum salam.
We're glad that you came today.
I'm glad to be here, alhamdulillah.
Getting our part to make sure that we go into the right path. So the question we have is, for example, we see somebody make a mistake, right, in front of us. We're not doing it. That's somebody else doing it. For example, like we doing something to the parents. We see it. Well, I'm not one who's doing it, but somebody else did it. So what do you think about that? Do you think we'll be involved in that matter, or we have to tell them, hey, this is wrong, I'm not supposed to do that, or we just be quiet and pretend? Not my problem, it's your problem.
Oh, it is your, actually, it is your problem because Allah Ta'ala has commanded you to say something. In Quran Majid, Allah Ta'ala, in Surah Al-Saf, Allah Ta'ala says, He says, you are the best of the raised up from amongst mankind. I'm getting like tongue-tied because my mouth is dry. Allah Ta'ala says, you're the best of the people raised up from amongst mankind. Best ummah, raised up from amongst all the different ummahs. But Allah Ta'ala qualifies it, and that's not just because we're ummati Muhammadi, but because you command what is correct and you stop transgression. This young man or young lady is transgressing the rights of the mother, you have to say something about it. And Nabi Kareem, he says that, if you see a wrong, you stop it with your hand. If you're so weak that, then you stop it with your hand, then at least speak out against it. And if your iman is so weak, at least hate it in your heart. But we default to the weakest part of our just hate in our heart, because we become so cowardly and we're not obeying the command. It is on us to, if we see the wrong, we stop it. If I see some man beating his wife, I beat him, or at least I stop him from beating his wife. What kind of Muslim? I'm seeing a Muslim man abuse his wife. I see that's their business. It's my business, because Allah has made men a qawwam. We all the men are responsible for the protection of those ladies. Whether that lady lives in my house, is my daughter, or my wife, or my mother. If I see a Muslim lady in distress, even if it's a brother's and it's his wife, I have to stop him from doing it. So yes, it is your business. Allah made it the business of the believers to look out for each other. Allah made the business of the Muslim men to look out for the Muslim ladies and children. This is our duty. yes, you have the right to speak out against it. If someone says, mind your business, I tell them it is my business. Allah Ta'ala commanded me to talk to you about what you're doing. It's wrong. So, yes. Subhanallah. I can get long-winded, so you have to sometimes have to stop me. Inshallah. Subhanallah.
Maybe couple of things about about the murtad you said. Yes. How someone murtad, and then when they die, they choose suicide. And then the second one, how we deal with stuck up and pride people. I mean, as a Muslim, some said that sometimes we have to be showing that we stuck up to teach them, or we just
no, they're not our teachers.
Okay.
You don't correct a dad by practicing bad adab. You show them the correct way. So if someone is arrogant, you pay what we call an honorable avoidance. You don't deal with them. And they will get the message at some point. No one wants to deal with me. In fact, they say that a man without adab is ignorant man, because a sign of refinement is that you know adab and you practice adab. So much so that if you go to an alim and he has bad adab, the students eventually leave him. And also, if a student comes to the sheikh, he has good adab, the sheikh loves him and he learns more. The arrogant student who thinks he knows and he's not practicing proper adab in front of the sheikh disregards him or eventually throws him away. So the person who is arrogant and stuck up, he obviously doesn't have adab. He has bad adab. It's best to leave the company of the people with bad adab and be with the company of the people who have good adab. The people of khayr, the people who they have regard for everyone else. And they look at themselves as being below everyone else. The believer never thinks that he's better than anyone else. So much so that for the old man, the old sheikh, he looks at the young man and says, this young man is better than me. Why? Because he hasn't lived as long as I have, and perhaps he hasn't made as many sins as I've made. The young man looks at the old sheikh and says, the old sheikh is better than me because he's lived long and he's probably done more better than me. See, this is the adab of love for the believers. Even though the young man may be better than the sheikh, but the sheikh may know that intuitively because Allah has given him something. But the sheikh even, he shows them the respect, but the young man was like, no, sheikh, you don't kiss my hand. This is adab. They're young ulama, and because you have seniors who are your senior not just by age. Sometimes your senior is your senior because of what Allah has given him. So your senior, your sheikh might be younger than you, but he's your sheikh. SubhanAllah. So again, it's for the people who are arrogant and haughty and proud, you stay away from them. You don't deal with them because there's no benefit from being. Even the scholars who are arrogant and haughty, how can you benefit from someone who doesn't even understand what he's learned? Because when you learn knowledge of deen, it makes you humble. The more knowledge you learn, the more humble you become.
Piggyback on that one. So we stay away from it, or we just tell them, or we just.
If he's in the masjid, then you reprimand him, but you don't associate with his bad adab because he enabled it. If he gets away with it all the time, then he thinks it's okay. I'll just keep doing it. Same thing with children. When we have children, and if they have bad adab, we don't admonish them, they keep doing it. Or if they don't feel there's some repercussion, if I keep doing this, the brothers are all going to disassociate themselves with me. And I need the association of the brothers. I need the help of the brothers. So eventually they begin to change. They get the message. And so the adab for someone that's arrogant is not to be arrogant, but to disregard them. They will feel that. But the adab of the non-believer, but there's a different adab between the Muslim and the non-Muslim. And our Sheikh explained this to us. He said, with reference to the kuffar, you're kings. This is Sayyidina Sheikh Sayyid Mubarak Ali Shah. He said, with reference to the kuffar, you're kings. Allah made you the kings of this earth. As Muslims, as believers. He said, so much so that he said, if you come across a group of unbelievers and they are humble, you should show them even more humility. This is the humility of the king. He is humble to his subjects. And he's looking at me and how are you and everything. He said, but if they're arrogant, he said, then you overpower their arrogance. who you would talk to me like this? But he said, for the believer, you lower the wing of mercy. Because Allah Ta'ala, he mentions that the believers are those who are humble with the believers, and harsh with the unbelievers. But but in some cases we are humble with the unbelievers and harsh amongst ourselves. But he says, for the non-believers, if they're arrogant, and then you don't take it from them. But for your Muslim brother, you accept it for Allah's sake, with the hope that you will reform him, and eventually you say, "Astaghfirullah, I treated Brother Tickler that way. I feel so bad." And he knew I was doing wrong, and he took it, and now I feel so bad. But that's the sign of Iman. So for your brother, he gets a pass up to a point. But if it's constant, then you have to look, brother. You have to. In some cases, people have been thrown out of the masjid because of their adab. Because there's an adab of the masjid. One of the adabs of the masjid is that you don't cause problems for the people in the masjid. Obviously, your arrogance or your haughtiness or being loud. It's a place of ibadah. It's a place of peace and comfort. It's a sanctuary. So it depends whether the conditions. If it's Muslim, you try to give them the wing. Then you start to distance yourself from, here comes brother so and so. Let me go over here. He eventually gets the message, but you begin by you talk to him about this, and every time you come to the masjid, you're causing problems, brother. Sometimes a person is not even aware that he's doing wrong.
Even though sometimes when we do that, they just to walk away and not accept our advice.
But you've done your duty, and he heard it. He can't deny he heard him. And Yawm al-Qiyamah, he cannot say, Ya Allah, no one ever reminded me that what I was doing was wrong. So when you remind them what you've done, you've actually fulfilled your obligation, because you remind, and Allah Ta'ala, you give reminder in case it probably the one who hears it. Ad-dinu nasiha. Part of our deen is that we give advice, sincere advice, but there's also an adab we've even giving advice. You have to think about the person, because even in your own family, and I have two sons, and one is very soft-hearted. So if he does something when he was young, and he'd do something, I look at him, astaghfirullah, and he'd start crying, and I don't want to astaghfirullah. So now I have to deal with this one differently. The first son is so soft and pliable, when you look at him, he feels bad, and you recognize, why would you do something like that? That wasn't intelligent. You're an intelligent kid. Why would you do something like that? You never call your child dumb. You're intelligent. Why would you do something? You're an intelligent child. Why would you do something like that? That's not intelligent. So he's thinking, if you tell your child you're dumb, that's what they learn. If you tell them you're intelligent, you shouldn't do things like that. An intelligent person doesn't do those things. So the one son, I never had to give him an Urdu, they call it danda, a spanking. The other one, because he had to get a different type of treatment. Because you tell him, and he's like, okay, you over there, you don't get an allowance, you don't get to do this, you don't go over here, I'm taking this and that away from you, and it works. Okay, well, I have to be careful when I'm around Abu. Same thing happens with our children. Everyone who's married knows this, that there's a different adab children have with their mothers and their fathers. When you leave the house, they run wild against Allah. When you come home, everything is okay. But the quality of the mothers that they never tell them that their mother never told them when they did things wrong. She was always protective. Well, if I tell them, maybe Abu might punish them, so I don't want my child to be punished. So the mother, this is why there's always this strong connection, sometimes even more with the mother than the father, right? Because the mother's always protecting. Even if the child does something wrong, she lowers the wing of mercy. With Abu, it's like, okay. And even to the point that, the mother can put a child in check by saying, you just wait till I'm going to tell you Abu when he comes home. Abu's out, but he's on point now. He's changed. So again, the adab of even giving advice, it has to be done according to the person itself. Some people, you have to give them, the phrase is, it's not what you say, but how you say it. It's not what you say, but how you say it. If you're giving good advice, but you're arrogant yourself and you're howling and screaming at someone, especially as a Muslim, you're going to get, wait a minute, you're talking to me like that? I would get upset if someone is monitoring me and they're just screaming, especially if it's in public. And I'm making a big scene, and he's yelling, I'm like, wait a minute, who are you talking to? The same words if he took me to the side and said, brother, same words with the same emphasis, but no one's around now, I can take it. So again, even the adab with monitoring is that you have to take into consideration the situation and the location as well. And even, our Sheikh told us, he said, never punish your children in front of the other children. Never do it. Because you humiliate them in front of their siblings. Always take them away. So that they have some type of honor. So this is just, part of the Wa alaikum salam. I told you I like to rant and rave, so anyone else? Sometimes I don't know how to stop what to stop.
So I have two questions. So the first one, I've been hearing that Allah will forgive all the sins, except if you still talking about it. You don't forget, it's kind of like, oh, I used to be this kind of person, this kind of person. So, and you tell them to the people who doesn't know that you are doing this.
Well, there's a hadith in reference to this particular thing. When in the hadith, I'm paraphrasing hadith, where this individual came and he said, "Yeah, I did so and so and so and so." He said, "Why are you bragging? Did Allah Ta'ala reveal this sin to anyone else? No. Then why are you coming to be bragging about it? If you're talking about it, you're bragging about it, as though you're proud of it." So here this hadith, this person comes and no one knows that he committed this sin. And the reason he would always, before punishing someone, he would give them a chance to go away. So he said, "Yeah, and maybe I did so and so and so and so. But did anyone know about it? No. Then why are you bragging about it? Then why are you talking about it? Go and do tawbah." There's one lady who committed zina, and he said, "Go away." But her imam was so firm. He said, "Go do tawbah and go away." Her imam was so firm. He said, "I don't think that my tawbah is." She came back again, and the results of her zina that she was with child. And the Nabi said, "Then go away and have the child." And he didn't tell her to come back. Go away and have your child. But still, she comes back and yells, "I have the child." He said, "Are you breastfeeding the child?" "Yes." "Then go away and breastfeed your child." And suck her for the 2 years. All this time is passing. He didn't say after that, "Come back." But her iman was so strong, she's still thinking, "Ya Allah, this thing I've done is so great." Then she came again and he said, "Okay, all right." And then the judgment was passed. So again, to remind yourself, even if you're not telling someone else about the sin you committed, is bragging. And to tell someone else about the sin you committed is the worst thing you could do. That's the sin in and of itself. And you have to do tawbah. We have to do tawbah if we mention to someone, "Man, I was out of it, and I did so and so and so and so." And this is between you and Allah Ta'ala, because if Allah Ta'ala conceals your fault, you do not have the right to reveal it. You don't have that right, because Allah Ta'ala this is the rahmah. And if Allah Ta'ala were to reveal your fault, there would be no way that you could cover it. So when Allah Ta'ala has mercy on us and concealing our faults, we should be very careful of this rahmah and do tawbah before Allah Ta'ala reveals it. Because Allah Ta'ala can reveal what we do at any and every moment. So we never, talk about the sins we've committed to anyone else. It's between you and Allah Ta'ala. Only one who can help you is Allah Ta'ala. So why am I telling someone who can't help me? Well, it's bragging. Well, you're bragging. Don't brag about sin. That's a sin itself, to brag about the wrong we've done. It's like you're proud of it. The believer, they are ashamed of the mistakes they made. They're not proud of it. Why would I tell you that I did so and so and so and so? That's taqfirullah. Ustaz, you did what? It's like even now. The other thing too is Allah Ta'ala, He shows people what He shows them from amongst honor and reverence for the people. Allah Ta'ala honors a person so much so that He has a good relationship with the people in the community. He reveals his sin, then Allah wipes away that honor. Because every one of us, if Allah Ta'ala were to reveal the mistakes we made, none of us would be able to hold our heads up. We'd all be ashamed, all of us, including myself, that we've done something in our lives that we are so ashamed of. If Allah Ta'ala revealed that we couldn't even be around each other. So this is the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. So yes, to actually make a mention of the mistakes we made, it is not something that the Muslims do. It's against the adab of tawbah to mention it at all. Once you've done tawbah, you don't mention it, because your slate is wiped clean. So why are we thinking about it even? We're talking about it even, It's like not being grateful for the rahmah, the mercy of Allah Ta'ala is ingratitude.
So as a follow-up, so since this one is Ramadan, so what is the suggestion? You know, like sometimes I'm worried that I might committing like the major sins, you know, like syech, you know, like back home, there are a lot of tradition that at that time we don't know it's syech, right? So, for example, like if you lost something, I'm talking about like way on 70s or 80s, you know. Like if you lost something, people will say, okay, go to someone, to knowledgeable people. So when they call knowledgeable people, actually, you know, maybe like in Africa, like fugu or
the kahin,
stuff like that, you know. And it's been a practice. So people get used to it with that.
It's a major sin.
It's a major sin.
To go to the kahin is a major sin. The soothsayer, the one who practices witchcraft or voodoo or fortune telling is a major sin.
So now we are more informed. We have a better understanding and how to do the repentance for this kind of major sin.
You have money, you give it. You know, when you do tawbah, even for this sin, you know, then, you know, it's not a sin when you violate someone else's rights, but you've gone to someone other than Allah Ta'ala for help, thinking that they can help you. And for that, it is a form of shirk, so the person should, they should say the shahada again. They should begin to give sadaqah on behalf of tawbah. They should feed the poor people, especially on Ramadan. Feed the poor people. If you can host iftar, or if you can put food in the houses of poor people, give them food as much as you can during Ramadan, and ask Allah Ta'ala during this blessed month when tawbah is accepted more than any other time, do tawbah, and it's accepted in this month. And so the bottom line is to think that a situation is hopeless is kufr. Some of the ulama say that for someone to say, man, it's a hopeless situation, some of them say this is kufr and the person can be beheaded. Because, you know, there's no such thing as a hopeless situation, because Allah Ta'ala, we cannot put limitations on Allah Ta'ala. You're saying Allah Ta'ala can't help me? That's what saying that a situation is hopeless means, that Allah Ta'ala can't even help me. So Allah Ta'ala can't even help me. This is kufr. To think for one moment, to limit Allah Ta'ala in any way is kufr. To attribute any attribute of weakness to Allah Ta'ala, or incapacities to Allah Ta'ala is kufr. So yes, you know, we do tawbah for all those things with full faith that Allah Ta'ala has forgiven us. So we don't doubt that, because Allah Ta'ala said that He forgives us. So we can't have any doubt about it. So this is why after we've made tawbah, we don't think about it. Allah forgave me, that's it. I have full faith that I'm forgiven, and I gotta keep my slate clean now. Keep the sins off of me. But, you know, Nabi said that if Allah loves a person, sin doesn't stick to him, meaning that every time he makes a mistake, he does tawbah. Even if it's just to say, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. But give something during Ramadan more than, this is why a lot of people during Ramadan, they give their zakat al-mal in Ramadan, not just zakat al-fitr, but zakat al-mal in Ramadan, because the barakah of giving in Ramadan is so greater. And they say, Ya Allah, you know, for the sake of this food I gave to the people, please forgive me. Ya Allah, for the sake of the iftar that I gave, or the money I gave for iftar, please forgive me. Allah accepts it.
So put that niyat.
Yes, that's the niyat when you give. That this is for the mistake I made. A lot of people don't, because we have a food pantry, we have families who actually sponsor iftar. We take the food to the families with the intent that they're asking Allah Ta'ala, Ya Allah Ta'ala, please accept this food that I'm saying to these people for the sake of the sin I committed. You know, so this is the adab of tawbah as well, to give, to feed, feed the fuqara, the miskin. This is the best time to do it. This is the best time to do tawbah. No better time than Ramadan. The shayateen from amongst the jinn are locked up. Human shayateen is still around, but the shayateen amongst the jinn, they're not bothering us as much right now. It's our own selves that we're struggling with right now. And this is the best time to do tawbah. This is why I thought this topic would be the best topic to do during this blessed month of Ramadan, because we need to emphasize that. We need to take full advantage of it and ask Allah Ta'ala to forgive us for whatever mistake we made. But we can also ask Allah Ta'ala to forgive our parents. In fact, the adab of dua is that for children, Men and women who have Muslim parents that your dua is not accepted unless you make dua for them as well. This we cannot forget. That the du'as of the children are not accepted until and unless you remember your parents who raised you to the point where you even understand what tawbah is. So we make dua for our parents in this blessed month of Ramadan. Allah Ta'ala forgive them whatever mistakes they have made, including the mistakes they may have made when they were raising us, and that we don't carry anything in our hearts against them because they're humans as well. So whatever we feel in our hearts for our parents, our grandparents who have passed away, we need to ask Allah Ta'ala to remove that feeling from our hearts in this blessed month, and we should be doing what's known as Isari Sawab for them. We should be giving on their behalf and saying, Ya Allah, I'm sponsoring iftar for my mother or my father who passed away, my grandmother, my grandfather that passed away. We should be doing that for them during this blessed month of Ramadan and Mubarak.
With regard to parents, it's a little bit deviate from our it's still related, but a little bit deviate to our topic. You know, like you're saying that if you make a dua, so you have to make dua for your parents, and then that will be your dua will be less. You know, your tawbah maybe has more chance to get accepted. But how if like someone who have parents that neglecting them, abandon them since they were born, they just take off, so that there's no such relation in the heart, and then they just know, okay, that guy is your dad. There's no relation at all,
But
this person is passed away, and it's like, okay, make a dua to your deceased parent.
He passed away as Muslim. He passed away as Muslim. So the right of the parent still doesn't, even though it doesn't stop. When Allah Ta'ala says, and Lord, will give mercy to your parents, it doesn't mean the bad parent doesn't get the mercy, or the parent who I never knew doesn't get the mercy. The parent who passed doesn't get. He needs it more than anyone else for the child. So sometimes the mercy of Allah Ta'ala on the wayward parent who passed is the fact that he is a child who believes. So much so that we know about the hadith about the child who dies before birth or during birth. That child, the parent may be wayward, but the child is at the gates just saying, Ya Allah, I don't want to go to Jannah unless you forgive my parents. So what is different about that? It doesn't matter if this is your parent and he's a Muslim, even if he was the worst of people, isn't he in need more than anyone else of your dua? Of your doing, asking Allah Ta'ala, Ya Allah, my father was, we know he wasn't a good man, but Ya Allah, he was my father. For the sake of this relation, you sent me through him. You sent me through his loins. You sent me through this mother of mine. Allah Ta'ala was the one who chose to send you through that person. You still have rights. He still has rights over you. So even then, though there may have never been a relationship, this is my father. So you make dua for him and ask Allah Ta'ala forgive him the sins he made and the fact that he wasn't there and all those things. And
so maybe the textual is to be different. So that's why you should not be feeling because they never spend us, so
Well, it still doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. He's still your parent. The only with the exception is that you can make dua for parents that were not Muslims when they passed away. But your Muslim parents, even if they were bad Muslims, all the more reason why you have to make dua for them. They need it more than anyone else. So this is the rahmah of the child that he's supposed to have for his parents. So,
I believe the Father owns everything we have.
Because in reality, if you hold this in your heart against your parent, it doesn't damage them, it damages you. It damages your relationship with Allah Ta'ala.
Right?
Yes, Ya Allah, have mercy on them just as they had mercy on me when I was little. That's the dua, yeah. Have mercy on them just as they had mercy on me when I was little. And so sometimes the parents, they become so old, they become like children, and they are not able to take care of themselves. And the last thing I want to say, because we have to break, is that there's 2 times that barakah comes to a house, they say. First time is when the parent brings the child home. There's barakah in the house. Second time is when the child brings the parent home, meaning thereby the children are grown, the parents are old, and now the parent comes to the child's house, and the parents are taken care of by their children. That's the second time barakah comes. So this is why it's so important that we look after our elders and our seniors and our parents who become old, and show them the window of mercy just like they showed the mercy to us, because they bring barakah to the house. If you're lucky enough, fortunate enough to have your mother live with you, this is barakah, subhanAllah.
It's about time, so let's make dua and then we close.
سبحان الله والحمد لله لا اله الا الله والله اكبر ولا حول ولا قوه الا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا انك انت التواب الرحيم واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا مولانا انك انت التواب الرحيم لي حمزه اطفي بها حر الغباء الحاكمه المصطفى وما وفاتنا اللهم لك اسم بك مت وعليك توكلت وعلى رزقك افطرت بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Let's close the masjid and the Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله.
This sounds so weird. This one.
بسم الله. بسم الله. Yes, I see my friend sitting over there.
Oh, yeah. Andy.
I see my friend. MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. How are you? Allahu Akbar.
Missing person.
That's sweet Andy, mashallah. Bismillah. I'm the missing person too, more than you. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى وسلم.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Aku stop.
Okay, Martin. And. Ya, sebelah kiri atas.
Atas.
Ya,
Pakai kali gitu.
ya.
Enggak di save dong.
Udah otomatis.
Ustaz, kasih tahu isi.
You wanna stop?
Ambil bawah aja.